Welcome to another episode of GitHub Copilot. Today we are going to explore the GitHub Copilot for Azure Extension. This is one of my favorite extensions which support the Azure resource management, cost management, app deployment, everything from within my IDE itself. Combination of Copilot, Azure and VSCode. As part of today's discussion, we are looking at few of these topics. We install the GitHub Copilot for Azure Extension, understand a little bit on Azure Developer CLI, and then go for Azure AI app templates to deploy an application with the help of Azure Extension. Obviously, we look for the GitHub Copilot in VS Code as well. This extension is a VS Code extension, not available as part of the GitHub Marketplace, but it's available as part of the Visual Studio Code Marketplace. In our previous video, we explored the Vision extension. Both Vision and Copilot for Azure are VS Code extension available for only the VS Code users. I'm moving to the VS Code. Navigate to the extensions and search for Copilot for Azure. The first extension, which is from Microsoft, and you can observe how many downloads and the ratings associated with this extension. I have already installed this extension. You can search and click on install to install it. There is no separate license terms. It's associated with your Copilot license itself. Once it's installed, as part of your first extension invocation, you need to connect with your Azure subscription. Let us open the GitHub Copilot chat, and the Azure extension is invoked using @Azure. And as you can observe that it supports a bunch of / commands apart from the generic prompt. So I can just ask the extension @Azure, what can you do for me? So just want to understand what's the capabilities of this extension, whether the extension can help me to understand that or not. As it's an AI-driven ecosystem, you may get a little different answers always. Right now, it's provided the response saying it can help in querying Azure resources, generate the CLI commands, Azure SDK code samples, and the ACD task. We will be diving a little deeper into this ACD task today. And cost management, app diagnostics, Kubernetes management. So the entire Azure resource management and deployment from a developer's perspective, I can achieve with the support of this extension. So let us start with exploring the first / command /learn and ask what kind of AI services Azure offer. So this is going to be my first question to the Azure extension. I want to learn more about these services. It's taken the references of 5 references, all targeted to the Azure Microsoft Learning website. And it came with the AI services, vision, speech, language, decision, and search and knowledge. If I want further information on these things, I can use this follow-up prompt or a generic prompt. Let me trigger another learning question. How do I provision an AKS cluster with 5 nodes and ingress controller? So here I am very specific on the requirement. I want to understand how can I provision a cluster with 5 nodes and set up the ingress controller. Let us see how Azure extension will help me to understand a little more on these things. So the extension responded with the Azure CLI command, that is AC commands, to create the resource groups, adding the ingress chart, and also the AKS cluster, kubectl commands and everything. So I can use these statements or the commands to provision the things, or I can ask more details on how to deploy an ingress controller, a different ingress controller setup altogether I can ask further questions. The first functionality of the Azure extension to extend its support to learn new things associated with Azure. As I mentioned initially, we are going to a little deeper into the ACD commands. I want to understand what exactly the ACD commands first. What is ACD commands? To understand what exactly ACD command, it's an Azure Developer CLI command. Those who are new to these things, there are AC commands and ACD commands. AC commands we use for provisioning the resources. ACD is mainly for a developer angle where he can manage the complete lifecycle of an application, creation, deployment, taking down the application. Everything can be done using the Azure Developer CLI commands. Even I can take the Azure extension to understand what is the difference between AC and ACD. These are the two kind of commands supported by Azure CLI. One is for provisioning angle, the other one is for developer centric. It's provided the generic differences in terms of AC is for the general purpose command line tool, whereas ACD support more on a developer angle. Let us take the support of ACD plus this Azure extension to span one of the AI application, let it deploy to the cloud and taking down the application. So I'm asking at Azure, I want to deploy a chat vision app. This is my requirement, and I'm damn sure that there is a chat vision app template available. The extension responded with a ACD command for initializing this template. Let me take that into the terminal. I just added the command to the terminal and enter. Oh, it's going to the root directory. I don't want that. I'm going to a different directory and executing this command for initializing it. I provided a different command CS instead of CD. Let me navigate to the proper directory and initialize my application. Here the ACD command is going to initialize the application. Tap is enough. The environment name is created and it's initialized the complete application. I can go ahead and open the application. It is the chat app. Open it. As you can observe, it's brought the entire application script, the SRC folder, test and the infrastructure script. Everything is captured here. And before going further into the Azure extension, let us have a look on this templates. So I have used this AI app template. It's a Azure AI app templates, which consist of different AI driven applications, including the entire architecture, the infrastructure, and also the app code. So the ACD will help me to initialize this template, quickly deploy it. We have taken one of this template. Here I have searched for chat and vision, and the first template coming up, this is the template we used right now for initializing our application. And this template consists of around 7 different Azure resources. Once it's deployed, this will be the screenshot where you can pass one image and ask questions about that image, and the AI will be responding back to you. We have a number of other Azure templates, AI application templates available as part of this AI app templates collection. You can use Azure extension to query and get any of these templates quickly initialized as part of your VS Code. If you want to try out without bringing it into your local environment, you have an integrated code spaces here. You can directly open this template in GitHub code spaces and modify based on your requirement. Now we have the template created and initialized. Let us take the help of Azure Extension to deploy this into our environment. So again I am invoking @Azure and asking how do I deploy this app to Azure. So I want to deploy this application without modifying anything. This is the first deployment. Let me see how this extension is going to help me in the deployment area. So Hubber is the tenant. It's asking whether they need support with ACD and Hubber is this tenant or I need a different tenant. Use Hubber, the follow-up question or the prompt to revise the requirement. Use Hubber tenant and deploy using ACD. I need the ACD command for deployment of this project. It's provided two statement. Initialization we did already. So the next command of deployment is ACD up. I have taken that into the terminal and initializing the bicep provider. I have two Azure subscriptions right now linked. So I am going with the second one, that is a TechRill subscription. Now we need to select the locations where we need the deployment. Let us go with East US. And the location for the OpenAI, as it's an AI application, internally it's using OpenAI resources. Now we selected East US for both of them. Let it provision all 7 resources required and then deploy this application. Meantime, we will go ahead and explore little further on this @Azure or the Azure extension. The next one is the change tenant. If you are providing this one to change your tenant, currently I am using Hubber tenant, I need a different tenant connectivity, I can use /change tenant. Or I can go ahead and ask cost related to my subscription, provided the subscription ID. As we have multiple subscription, I need to pass the subscription ID. Let me get the subscription ID and ask Azure Extension, what is the cost of passing the subscription? Azure Extension help me with the breakdown of the cost for this subscription for December. The December month I have an app service cost, SQL database, container registry, log analytics, all these elements cost me. If I need the details of previous months like the cost breakdown for November or August, I can specify that one. Or I can use this subsequent follow-up question suggested by the extension itself, one of them. So what resource type is costing me the most money in the subscription? Let me take that follow-up question and to understand which one is costing me. App service is costing me 83% of the total charges. Here again it's based on the cost associated with December. I can ask further questions on the November or the previous month's data as well. Let us move to the next one, diagnose. In case you have some resources which need some diagnose or the logs analysis, I can start with a /diagnose. Look into the app services. So if there is a log associated with app services, it brings that information, but there is no specific issues identified for my app services. In case you have an Azure resource with issues, you can use diagnose as part of that. Experiment is for the online experiment, the ML experiments you are created, it gives the score, the associated details and everything. So you can prompt based on your ML experiments. I don't have an online experiment, so I am leaving this as a learning for you people to explore. Now resources gives the detailed resources in terms of, I can ask something like, what is the URL of my web app image inside. I hope I have a web app called image inside. Let me ask Azure Extension to get me the URL of that one. There is no resource called image inside. So let me go ahead and ask another question. How many storage accounts I have in my subscription? So a little more detail about different resources. It's brought the storage account information. There are 2 storage accounts and the details are provided here. You can use this Azure extension to learn more about Azure, do the resource management directly from your IDE, diagnose and troubleshoot any issues related to your Azure resources, cost management, and obviously the ACD support for application initialization deployment areas. Here our application deployment is completed. Let us navigate to this application. So we have this application deployed and the URL is provided here. Let me open this URL. The app is up and running. Let us choose one file for testing. I have some ER diagram here, so I am passing that first. Create the SQL schema creation scripts based on this diagram. So at the end, I want to convert this ER diagram into the SQL create scripts. So let us see how this app is going to help us. Great. It's supporting exactly the same way how our Vision extension supported us. Generation of different data or insight out of the images. Now from this image, it's provided the details. Let us take a different image. There is a security job. So I'm asking this app, explain this diagram or explain this image. Here I am going to get an explanation of the image we passed. It's an illustration of the security risk where it shows the security is the responsibility of everyone who works and everyone who doesn't work here. So it's captured all information about this image and explained. This can be achieved by our Vision extension, but as part of a app template, we have one of the template available for getting exactly the same experience as part of your application. Once you have this AI template up and running, you can integrate that as part of your other applications, maybe a chat ecosystem as part of your e-commerce website. It looks cool. The Azure extension helps us in different ways. Now let us take down this deployed application. As you may observe that it's created multiple resources here. If I need to clean up the environment, I can log into Azure portal and delete these things. As a developer, I prefer to do it from the ID itself. So I am asking Azure extension, how can I take my app down? I want to take up the app. The app deployed application and the associated resources needs to be removed. The ACD command is straightforward, ACD down, which helps me to remove the entire resources and the associated application deployment as well. So it's identified clearly 7 resources. The ACD command is going to remove my application along with the 7 resources provisioned as part of this application deployment. So quickly we are able to Initialize an AI application with multiple capabilities deployed to our Azure subscription, now cleaning up the Azure subscription resources with the help of Azure Extension. It's all within your ID itself. As a developer, I don't like to move out of my ID, and all this application management from the initialization till the deployment and cleanup is done from my ID itself. Moreover, you will be able to interact with this application using other extensions or agents. For example, I am using @workspace to query on this application or the repository. I can ask, what are the infra files exist in my application? There are multiple infrastructure related files which I observed as part of my Azure resource provisioning, and you can observe that the workspace indexing just started, but it's identified 3 of the bicep files which define my Azure resource requirements. If you want to index the workspace in advance, you can use command palette and go for build local workspace index, which will ensure that the indexing is done before you ask the first query to the Copilot. It's not only workspace, you can simply use the Copilot to interact with the files in your application. So use both Azure Extension along with other extensions, agents, and prompt engineering to complete your application development, deployment, troubleshooting. Let the resource cleanup continue. Meantime, we will relook into the topics we discussed. We have installed the GitHub Copilot for Azure Extension from VSCode Marketplace. This is a VSCode extension, not a app-based extension. We understand basics of ACD, the Azure Developer CLI for application initialization, deployment, cleanup, and everything. We have a bunch of Azure AI app templates which can be used for quickly developing AI-based applications and deployed to Azure. It internally contains the complete architecture and the infrastructure as code by subscripts for provisioning the infrastructure quickly in your cloud subscription. Let us see whether the cleanup is completed. It's still going on deleting the resources. We have around 7 resources needs to be removed. If you are a VSCode user and Azure is your deployment environment, Azure Extension is one of the great companion for you to quickly complete your application, initialization, management and deployment along with the complete Azure resource management. Try it out today. Thank you.